I'm sorry, I'm moving.
I'm gonna go. You know, I talk a lot with these.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience. We're very grateful for each of you taking time out of your busy lives to be here tonight and be part of the democratic process. I'm going to call to order our Monday, September 23rd, 2024 Royal Oak City Commission meeting to order. We're going to begin with an invocation given by Commissioner Colo, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you can stand, please do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we gather tonight, let's take a moment to reflect on the history we continue to write together. This past Friday, Oakland Elementary celebrated its 100th anniversary. For a century, it has stood as a beacon of education, nurturing countless young minds, and serving as a reminder that the foundation of any great community is found in the education of its children. 100 years of teachers and students learning together, growing together, striving together to make Royal Oak what it is today. And then today, we have the honor of dedicating the Hamer Finch Wilkins Park. The Hamer's family story is woven into the very fabric of our city's identity. Fleeing from slavery on the Freedom Trail, they found their way here, one of the founding families of Royal Oak. Their journey, their courage, and their resilience represents the very best of what we strive to be, a community that welcomes, a community that stands for freedom, for justice, and for progress. Let's remember these milestones, not simply as moments in history, but as signposts pointing towards the future we are building, a future where we break free from what holds us back, whether it's division, fear, or the challenges of our times, and come together, shoulder to shoulder, to move our city forward. We're all part of this story. From the smallest moments to the largest milestones, we are writing the next chapter. Let us remember that history isn't just something that happens to us, it's something we create together, through our choices, our kindness, and through our commitment to one another. Let us recommit to the values that built Royal Oak. Let us be bold. Let's be united. And let's never forget that the work that we do here in these chambers ripples far beyond these walls. It reaches the classrooms, the parks, and the streets, every corner of our community. In the words of one of my favorites, Aaron Sorkin, the decisions are made by those who show up. And tonight, we are showing up for each other, for our community, and for Royal Oak. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, this brings us to item 4 tonight, which is the approval of the agenda. Commissioner Macy.
Mayor, move approval with the addition of an item, advice of counsel from closed session regarding case 2024-204-795-NI, captions in the closed session.
Okay. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Douglas. Discussion on the agenda. All right, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. We've established an agenda. Okay, this brings us to item 5, which is a proclamation designation September 23rd to 29th, 2024 as Rail Safety Education Week. Do we have anyone here from the railroad tonight? Oh, back there. Okay, perfect. And I know you guys will be up after public comment again to talk about some other things, but. Hello. All right, it's working. How you guys come over here? We'll do this together. How are you? Mike for me. Good. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. All right. designated for this. So, whereas C-Tracks Think Train Week is to be held across the United States from September 23rd to the 29th, 2024. And whereas 2,192 rail grade crossing collisions resulted in 765 personal injuries and were responsible for 248 fatalities in the United States during 2023. And whereas 1,378 pedestrian trespassing casualties have occurred in the United States, resulting in 663 pedestrians being killed and another 715 injured while trespassing on railroad property rights of way during 2023. And whereas educating and informing the public about rail safety and reminding the public that railroad rights of way are private property, enhancing public awareness of the dangers associated with highway rail grade crossings, ensuring pedestrians and motorists are looking and listening while near railways, and obeying established traffic laws will reduce the number of avoidable fatalities and injuries caused by incidents involving trains and citizens. And whereas the International Association of Chiefs of Police, National Operation Lifesaver, Inc., United States Department of Transportation, and all local, state, county, and railroad law enforcement officers, first responders, and railroad corporations commit to partnering together in an effort to educate at a national level in all aspects of railroad safety to enforce applicable laws in support of National C-Tracks Think Train Week. Now therefore, be it resolved, I, Mayor Fournier, and the members of the Royal Oak City Commission, on behalf of the entire Royal Oak community, do hereby proclaim September 23rd to the 29th, 2024, National C-Tracks Think Train Week in Royal Oak, and encourage all citizens to recognize the importance of rail safety education. And so I'll present this to you guys.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Mayor.
certainly a few words here to talk about the program, if you wish.
Sure.
My name's Officer Dave Salamas. I'm with the CN Railroad Police. Every day we work hard to make sure that we keep trespassers off of our property, and we make sure that people are not running around our gates also. We want to keep everybody safe out there. That's our main goal, is to protect life and property. That's what we're here for. That's what we're trying to do. So we encourage everybody to, if you see something, say something. There's a blue sign on every crossing in the United States, and they're all here throughout Royal Oak. There's an 800 number. If there's a problem on the tracks, please call it. If you can't get a hold of anybody that way, call 911. But thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for this proclamation. We really do appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Appreciate your service. Yep. All right, that brings us to public comment tonight. Just as a reminder, the City Commission values and relies on the input of our fellow citizens to help make decisions. Now's the time set aside for the public to address the City Commission on any city-related issue, whether or not it's on the agenda tonight or not. I ask that comments be directed to the City Commission as a whole and not to individual commissioners. If you wish to speak tonight at public comment, please wait until recognized by me. Come up to the podium. For the record, we ask that you state your name and address. Please be mindful that the City Commission wishes to hear from anyone who wants to speak tonight, so comments are limited to 3 minutes per person, not per topic, and we have a timer at the podium to help you keep track of your time. If you don't wish to speak tonight, don't hesitate to email us. Often getting those emails ahead of time is better. We do read them and try to respond to them timely. Please note that the City Commission doesn't respond directly to questions. However, if you have any questions, we'll ask those questions during the agenda topic, or if your questions aren't related to anything on tonight's agenda, our wonderful community engagement specialist, Judy Davids over there, can take your information, and we can try to get you the answers to your burning questions as soon as we can. Our interim city manager is also taking notes and does refer things to departments as appropriate. So with that, who's first tonight? Mr. Gomez had his hand up. He was the quick draw tonight. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. George Gomez, 2018 Guthrie Avenue, Royal Oak. A few years ago, the City Commission issued a proclamation that stated Royal Oak as a welcoming city. And since then, we've been trying to do so by turning our focus to multiple unit builders and those that can't afford to be in our desirable city. However, I believe we are still failing to include everyone. We've overlooked single families that have more property and want to do more within our large lot communities by unfairly applying current construction site rules. I've recently witnessed this during zoning meetings as they enforce a house size limit of 3,500 square feet, which is used in regular lot construction against large lot construction. And even though they may have as much as 3 times the land available to them. Recent requests on large lots ranging between 16 to 20,000 square feet were not even given the same allowance of 30% lot coverage, which is given to a regular lot of 6,000 square feet. If done so, this would have allowed construction of homes greater than the 3,500 square feet, thus avoiding any need for a variance by a committee. I provided a summary of 3 different requests made this year for 5,000 square foot homes, where only 1 was approved and 2 others were denied based on this very rule, even though they were very similar in comparison, and the random way in which the zoning committee has applied these rules demonstrates a real need to change them. A true conflict exists between these 2 rules and creates a hardship for anyone trying to fairly follow them. This issue isn't part of a master plan review, but a change needed to be made more of a standards and fair and clear to everyone to use. Possibly you can champion a change for large lots by allowing a 25% overall ground coverage and capping homes at 5,000 square feet instead. Either way, something needs to be done to acknowledge them instead of putting them into a bucket with everyone else. I really appreciate the review we just had recently of the master plan, because it helped me to understand it isn't a master plan review. It's really part of an issue that we've created amongst ourselves and you've passed, and I know you want to make it welcoming to everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. All right, who's next? Mr. Asher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. My name is William Asher. I live at 1003 Irving Avenue in Royal Oak. Tonight I want to commend the City Commission for its support of Royal Oak's Sustainability Manager, Angela Fox. In the few months that she has been with the city, she has started a food waste composting program, offered orientation programs on the Oakland County Rain Garden program available from, well, I skipped a line. Offered orientation programs on the Oakland County Rain Garden program available to Royal Oak residents and native plants and pollinators, among other accomplishments. Ms. Fox is taking her job very seriously and is working hard to educate Royal Oak residents on all things that help our community to be sustainable. I personally have brought at least 5 gallons of food waste each week since the farmers market drop-off program began. This is but a small part of the 8 to 12 64-gallon containers of food waste collected each week. All of this material has been composted instead of going to the landfill where it would have produced harmful methane gas. People can buy the resulting compost, and I personally bought and used it recently in constructing a rain garden. The only reason we have a rain garden at my house, a new native tree, and 2 new rain barrels is that Ms. Fox informed Royal Oak residents about the county Rain Smart program and I guess hosted a orientation program about it. These efforts keep stormwater diverted from our combined sewer system, thus contributing to water crisis prevention. All homeowners can participate in mitigating our storm water runoff issues without waiting for major infrastructure changes. In conclusion, thank you, City Commission, and also thank you, Ms. Fox, wherever you are.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Deborah Barnett. I am from 716 Mount Vernon Boulevard. I received a letter in the mail that stated that you guys had looked at the assessment that they did based on the signatures in order to pave Mount Vernon at 46.2%. Obviously, it's not a majority. And I wanted to speak particularly about it because I'm against it. And we moved from Oak Park, a very mature neighborhood, big trees and everything, to Royal Oak, not by my choice, but because we wanted to get a bigger home. And Mount Vernon was the house that we did. I was there 10 days after the big storm hit. And for a whole year, had to stay in my Oak Park house because the inspector for Royal Oak neglected to see that the drains in my basement had been tiled over. And we ended up with over a foot of feces. So we had to more or less gut at the house and start over again. As a way of looking at it, we wanted to move to Royal Oak because my husband said, and I say the same thing, it's a little piece of the country in Royal Oak. The people who come there now and who are purchasing the houses are coming there because of the dirt road. It's not deterring them, that's for sure. And our property value definitely has only increased since I've been there. And I think that just saying that has been an important part. I work for a school, I'm a teacher, middle school math teacher. And when I saw the assessment, my mouth dropped. I could not, in no means, be able to afford that amount. On top of the fact, as my superintendent tells us as teachers, to look at our clientele. If you look at Mount Vernon, the majority of the people that live there are senior citizens. And this cost to them is outrageous for them, especially those that live on Custer, that has to do the corners as well as Washington. So I'm coming primarily just to tell you that yes, we do not want it. And if by chance, when you guys decide, please let me know so I can put my house up for sale, because I'll go back to Oak Park. I'm not happy about this because we moved there for it. In addition, I have a ginkgo tree who's in front of my house that's 40 feet tall. It grows an inch a year, and it's 40 feet tall. So, and it's right at the curb, and so you guys would cut down. The last we heard of the trees that would on Mount Vernon, 86 of them would be cut down in order to do this project. So I'm just speaking from the heart that I hope and pray that you guys choose not to. I know you have till 2033 to make that decision, and by that time, I will no longer live there. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, in the back.
Good evening. My name is Alice Brown, A-L-Y-C-E Brown. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my husband, Thomas Smith. This is regarding the same standard resolution, special assessment, paving of third block only of Mount Vernon. We moved to 605 Mount Vernon 27 years ago, 1997, moving from another Royal Oak home we'd been at for 10 years. This neighborhood, with its gorgeous tree canopy and yes, dirt roads, was very appealing to us with its, as I've been quoted before as saying, country in the city surroundings. We believe many others did for the same reason. We are in strong opposition to this proposal for a number of reasons. First off, we have 157 feet of road frontage, which we never traverse due to the fact that our driveway egresses onto Custer Avenue. We are on the southwest corner of Custer and Mount Vernon. The expense we would incur for paving this frontage, an estimate of $30,000, is exorbitant. Secondly, we've been blessed to live here for many years and plan to remain well into our golden years. Unfortunately, the addition of this financial burden brings the idea into serious question. We are not the only ones on the third block in this position. On top of this, no value is added to our home with this so-called improvement. I am, as an aside, saying that the paving of the sidewalk along Custer, which was $8,300 out of our pocket, was a large expense at the time, but we know it was for the greater good of our community, making it walkable, as we've spoken about on many occasions. We are bewildered as to why the time and expense would be put forth into this project for the benefit of few residents, third block only residents. Mount Vernon is not a thoroughfare, but a dead-end street, and we feel this proposal follows suit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Mark?
Mark Sackett, General Manager, Royal Oak Leprechauns. Just a couple weeks ago, we were able to tour Memorial Park with Aaron Filipski and Nicole McEachern, our new superintendent. We shared our plans, not just for the one field, but for the entire park. And we're hoping to build on the relationship and better understand the processes to get some things done. So it was a good visit. Last week, we put in a proposal to install pervious, porous pavers for a patio. Can you say that 3 times fast? Okay. Anyways, it's going to be along the left field line. We wanted to put it along the left field line where the third base bullpen is. The patio was expected to cost about $40,000, in which the Leprechauns will pay for 100% of it. So that proposal will be coming through. Hopefully, we go in front of the Parks and Rec Board next week, and then after that, we'll see what happens. We've also submitted proposals for review with Aaron and Nicole for badly needed netting improvements at Memorial Park. This summer, we had about 10 people get hit by balls, thrown balls, batted balls. We had one lady get hit by a baseball bat that slipped out of players' hands. It's very dangerous in that area. And according to the 2024 Capital Improvement Plan, there's $200,000 budgeted for barrier netting at Memorial Park. I've worked hard with finding the contractors to do some improvements for getting quotes for this netting project. Aaron is working with me real well, but we really need to get this done to protect anybody who uses the park. The contractors I found were at $50,000, so that's going to save the city over $150,000. So hopefully that'll be coming through in the next month or so. The project's a huge necessity for the protection of the city, as well as for renters of Memorial Park. And if you look at Major League Baseball, all the parks in Major League Baseball now have netting all the way down their lines to protect everyone, because not everyone pays attention at the ball game. So anyways, so if MLB does it, I think we should as well to keep our people safe. So look forward to hearing from you or seeing you in October for the October meeting, and hope we'll get an approval there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sackett. We'll go in the far back in the white shirt.
Hello, I'm Arnie Grimblatt, and I live at 100 West 5th Street, Unit 411. And I came here primarily to talk about the train track crossing on 5th Street. Unlike 4th Street, 3rd Street, whatever else, it's very unsafe. And there's some simple solutions to it. Number one is the gradient is very, very bumpy. And I've been stuck on that crosswalk 3 times where I had to have people help me off. The sides of the crosswalk, they're very steep. If a wheelchair goes over the side, there's no way to get your wheelchair off. I'd be a statistic. I've had it twice where a train has been coming, and fortunately people were around me, or you've been reading about me in the papers. So the gradient on each side should be not so steep. It should be like a 1-inch drop for every foot, so that if a wheelchair does go through on the side, there's a way to get back up there. Also, that area is never cleared off in the wintertime. So you can't tell the difference between the snow and where the side is. And it should be cleared out quite a bit. And something should be done with that area. There will be a casualty, I can guarantee it. And I'm not the only one who's complained about that. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, yes, sir, in the black shirt.
Good evening. Okay, dear, I'm just going to read this, and I got copies for everybody.
Yeah, if you have anything copy, you could just hand it to our city clerk.
But I'm just going to read the first 3 lines. Okay, dear Royal Oak Commissioners, please be aware there's another petition in play today as delivered now for the entire boulevard. This has to be with 8H, standard resolution. People living in Royal Oak are now deciding what is the best choices for their families, friends, and community. I am a lifetime resident of Royal Oak and asking the commission for 1 month delay and let me get involved in the petition, and I'll do the entire street. I'm starting a new petition that will finish for next month. It won't take a big deal, but I think you'll be in a better position to make a decision. But anyways, that's pretty much it. I'm just going to go ahead.
Can we get your name real quick?
Anthony Kwilikowski. My address is 618 Mount Vernon Boulevard, Royal Oak, Michigan, 48073. Okay?
Perfect.
Okay, so I can just...
Yeah, if you give it to Ms. Hallis, she'll make sure we get a copy of that. Thank you.
I'm Margaret Marsh. I live at 831 Mount Vernon. That's the very end of the block, right by the park. And I'm trying to encourage you not to approve paving. First of all, there's only 46% of the people that on my block that wanted paving. But Mount Vernon, especially the westmost end, I live on the very last house, is a nice, quiet, peaceful, low traffic dog walking street. Most of you have probably been down there at some point. If we want to encourage people to walk, you can't do better than our unpaved, quiet, peaceful ends in the park at the senior center park. We used to take my grandchildren over to that park all the time, and other people do the same thing. If they feel safe letting their kids take bikes and such down to the park. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, who's next? Yes, sir, in the blue shirt. Thank you. My OCD was going to get me out of this seat here in about
no problem.
Between the next speaker. Thank you.
All right, good evening. My name is Robert Daniel. I live at 619 Mount Vernon Boulevard. Here to speak about item H, the special assessment paving in Mount Vernon. I am not in favor of paving this road, nor the stretch of this road. This only talks about the single block of a multi-block street. I've been a resident of Royal Oak since 2005. I lived on busy 13-mile road right across from Custer. So in 2021, we bought our house on Mount Vernon, and for the change of slow, calm road, and like other people describe, city in the country. I do not want my money, nor City of Royal Oak tax dollars, I feel, wasted on this project. This petition should have ended when it got to the 46% mark and not 50%. This road was not paved when I bought this house, and it's been the case for everybody who is a resident on this street. The road leads to the charm and aesthetics of the neighborhood. It is easy to traverse, and the gravel discourages extraneous traffic. The sidewalks are in good repair, so there's no hindrance of mobility to anyone or anything. Mount Vernon is a nice, calm street on which to reside. There is no need to disrupt our neighborhood with never-ending construction, underground utility disruption, and future repairs the road will inevitably require. An example of what Mount Vernon would look like a few years down the road would be Lexington, which has a number of cracks and bumps, and it's, quite frankly, it's no more noisier than a dirt road driving down Lexington. I chose to live on this street for everything it is, not to disrupt it. When family and friends come by, they always comment positively on the road, the trees, and the boulevard. Paving will add huge curbs, harm trees, disrupt the root systems, and even disrupt the drainage from our yards. So that's my thoughts about the position on Mount Vernon. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Mulheisen, 523 Jamaica Drive, Troy, Michigan, 48083. And I am the constituent and district director for State Senator Mallory McMorrow. And I'm glad to be here during Rail Safety Education Week to mention the pedestrian railroad crossing that links Center Street with 5th Street in downtown Royal Oak. There are concerns that Mr. Arnold Greenblatt, a resident here in downtown Royal Oak, brought to my attention, and he also spoke tonight. Royal Oak is a vibrant community with many events happening year-round. Unfortunately, not everyone has easy access to all of the community that is just outside their door. It's important to have inclusion of human diversity in walkable and wheelable neighborhood research to better inform policy, planning, and design interventions for all ages and abilities. The railroad crossing mentioned can be dangerous and/or unintentionally exclude people with mobility and other issues. The concerns Mr. Greenblatt and I have raised regarding flange gaps between the path and the track, as well as visibility, can cause a bike, walker, stroller, or wheelchair to become stuck. Mr. Greenblatt has had the caster wheel on the front of his chair stuck on the tracks on a few occasions where it could not be freed by his caretaker. Luckily, passersby were able to lift him in his powered wheelchair to safety before a train came. I appreciate that some temporary measures were put in place afterwards. Unfortunately, the asphalt that was poured at the crossing has pulled away from the tracks once again, and there are other areas needing to be addressed. And with winter coming, snow can obscure areas that drop off by the tracks. When appropriately constructed, railway crossing design features can support safety and inclusion, and communities that are designed with this in mind are good for everyone. Unfortunately, many environments are not designed for everyone. They can in fact be exclusionary for people with disabilities and older adults in a worst-case scenario and have devastating and tragic consequences. I'm appreciative of the time city officials, representatives from Michigan Railroad Association, CN Railroad, and the commissioners have taken to speak with me to look at the crossing and to listen to reasonable recommendations. Mr. Greenblatt and I have communicated ideas regarding safety of this area, and I'm hopeful that Royal Oak and CN Railroad can find a way to collaborate to find a way to ensure this pedestrian is accessible and safe for all. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak here tonight? Yes, Mr. Propsky.
Don't have a script. Nancy Poprovsky, for the people on the planet. The only reason why I'm going to speak is because I just heard these lovely people from Mount Vernon. I grew up on a gravel road. And, you know, it's really funny. All those years, we didn't have accidents. Kids didn't get hit by cars. Mom had to use a few more rags to dust the shelving, but that's the main reason we got rid of dirt roads, I believe. I don't really know why we got rid of dirt roads, because now we've got to put the bumps. We've got to do the road diets. So I think it would be really cool to save, you know, the dirt roads we've got left. It would be unique. And you know what I'm going to say now, the trees. So I keep hearing legacy for Royal Oak. This would be a great legacy to have a unique neighborhood like this not go down, because it's easy to get cookie cutter neighborhoods. We can do that anytime, but we can't get back these lovely neighborhoods with the large lots, no Bigfoot homes, and if they do put them in there, I've seen them get turned down, and I was impressed when I did see the zoning board turn them down, because it showed me that they wanted to leave character in the neighborhood, which we're losing. So I would appreciate, and I do have faith now in you, that you have said on Vincetta you're not going to cut the trees down for sidewalks. I know it happened in that area once, but I think now we're getting to the point where if we want to leave a legacy, leave that neighborhood alone, and I think it'll make more of an impression that we used our restraint not to make everything cookie cutter. So, and leave that big tree you were talking about that I never even knew was there, so now I'm going to drive by it. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else wish to speak tonight at public comment? Going once? Going twice? All right, we're going to close public comment, bring the meeting back to this side of the table. Thank you, everyone who contributed to public comment. That's going to bring us to item 7 tonight, which is the Canadian National Railway Safety, Operational, and Infrastructure Updates.
What a lovely coincidence.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Jeffrey Price, and I am the manager of public and government affairs for CN. So I have a prepared statement that I'll read, and then I'm more than happy to answer any questions that the committee here has tonight. First of all, I'm here to address 2 major concerns regarding CN's infrastructure in Royal Oak. First, the 11-mile bridge. I want to reassure you that the bridge, while the bridge may not look aesthetically pleasing, it is structurally sound and fully capable of safely carrying trains. I sent a copy of the public bridge report to Commissioner Herzog a few weeks ago on that matter. When it comes to safety is always going to be our priority. And when it comes to the bridge's safety, ensuring that the structure is strong enough to handle the load of a train that crosses it is paramount. We don't want to see a catastrophic failure of a bridge. I understand that there are some concerns about the appearance of the bridge, but unfortunately aesthetics must often take a lower priority compared to the structural integrity of the bridge. Not saying it can't happen. We have about 10,000 bridges in our current network right now. And so everything is kind of laid out in terms of a priority. The damage observed in the pedestrian corridor, which is going to be the separate issue with that bridge, is actually, it's cosmetic rather than structural, sorry. Apology, I had everything on my notepad and a battery just died on it, so I'm trying to do this from my phone here. The damage observed, again, structural. The chipping concrete is something that was brought to my attention when I was here a few months ago. The plan for that chipping concrete underneath the pedestrian bridge is to, in the springtime, they're going to go out and they're going to do some spalling on the bridge. So spalling is where they're going to remove the aesthetic concrete that's chipping away, and they're going to take it down to the actual core concrete of the structure, and they're going to leave that out there. They're going to put some sealant on it, but that core concrete is not going to chip away like the cosmetic is. Just due to the nature and age of the bridge, we see that in a lot of these bridges across our network that have that type of component. So we are actively looking at that and working to correct those and make them much safer for people that are walking underneath the bridge, or just making sure that there's concerns that the bridge is safe. While I understand that the appearance of the bridge is important, again, our foremost priority will always be safety. The second concern is what was mentioned tonight about the pedestrian crossing here in downtown Royal Oak. While the crossing was repaired a few years ago, I am aware that concerns remain about its current condition, like mentioned, like I've heard tonight. I am personally working close with our tracks and engineering team to evaluate the crossing and develop a long-term solution that ensures both safety and durability for the community. We want to ensure that once these issues are addressed, they do not recur in the future. So my understanding, the crossing was just recently rehabbed, and there's some issues with the asphalt kind of pulling away from the inside. From what I just kind of preliminary I'm hearing, it's something underneath the tracks. Nothing dangerous, nothing like that, but something that needs to be kind of realigned with ballast to really make sure that that asphalt doesn't really fall or peel away. So we're working on a solution to that. We can go back and repair it, but which I think we're probably going to do here soon. Really pushing for that on our end, but ultimately we want to find a long-term solution to prevent that from happening at that specific pedestrian crossing. I also want to acknowledge that CN has not always responded as promptly or efficiently to concerns raised by the Royal Oak community in the past. Whether the issues were related to the bridge or the downtown crossings or trash, there have been instances in the past where our response times and communication have not met expectations, and for this, I sincerely apologize. My goal since being hired on a year ago has been to correct this and make sure that CN is more responsive, more engaged, and more committed to addressing the issues and concerns of communities like Royal Oak. A year ago, I was brought in as the third U.S. Public and Government Affairs Manager for CN Railroad. Michigan is one of the states I cover along with 7 other states, with a specific focus on improving communications and responsiveness. Since then, I have made a concerted effort to build relationships and stay connected to the community concerns. For instance, CN, we joined the CN Royal Oak Chamber of Commerce to learn and better understand the needs of the local community. And we were approached this summer about the community cleanup day, about trash on the right-of-way. I made that a priority and made sure that we had CN personnel out there to assist with that, as that has been an ongoing concern. This is my 5th visit to Royal Oak this year. I currently live in South Bend, Indiana, which is about 3.5 hours away. But I chose to attend tonight's meeting out of the 32 commission requests that I received for Rail Safety Week this week for tonight. Because I want to make sure that our relationship with Royal Oak is important, it is essential, and I want to be here to represent the railroad and be there for any questions or concerns. I want to make sure that your concerns are heard, addressed, and resolved in a timely and effective manner. Thank you for your time this evening, and I look forward to continue to work with you and resolve these issues and build a stronger relationship partnership in the future. So I'm open to any questions.
Questions for Mr. Price. We'll start with Commissioner Herzog.
Thank you. A few months ago, a Royal Oak resident alerted the City Commission of a safety concern regarding the crumbling viaduct at 11 Mile. I appreciate, Mr. Price, for your quick response to the residents' concern by cleaning up the debris from the pillars, including me in a team meeting and answering multiple emails from me. In the past, the relationship with CN and the city has been complicated, and that has been difficult because the railroad transverses through the middle of our downtown. Royal Oak values safety, walkability, and maintaining vibrancy of our neighborhoods in downtown, and at times that was in conflict. So thank you for being here tonight and your commitment to being a responsible and engaged community partner, understanding that it goes beyond operational efficiency. It requires an ongoing dedication to openness, transparency, and collaboration with the city and its stakeholders. So like I said, we've been in communication over the past few months, so I have 4 questions that have been discussed before, but for the benefit of the residents, I wanted to highlight them tonight. So we talked before about the annual safety inspections of the viaducts, not only including trains traveling over the viaducts, but also for people walking or driving underneath them. Can you talk about if they're safe? Are they inspected for that?
Oh, no, thank you for the question. So for the bridge reports, we do the FRA, or Federal Railroad Administration, mandated reports for that. It's a yearly inspection, sometimes sooner, depending on the location, age of the bridge, type of the bridge, et cetera. So when we're doing a bridge report and we're doing the inspection on it, as I mentioned earlier, the main focus of those inspections is to make sure that the weight of a train and the load of the cars can traverse over the bridge safely and efficiently without any worry that the bridge would have a catastrophic collapse. If we ever would determine that a bridge is close to that, the bridge would be shut down immediately. Traffic would be rerouted on a different line if possible, and that concern would be addressed very, very quickly. When it comes to the underneath portion, there is a portion where they look at it, but as long as the bridge is structurally safe, that's really as far as the report goes. When it comes to anything under the bridge, this is where my goal is to each city that I work with to identify these issues and then work with our tracks department to figure out a solution to fix those issues. But I rely a lot on the local cities to bring those issues to my attention to address them.
Okay, great. And then can a summary of the annual inspection for all 12 Royal Oak viaducts be shared with our city staff? And this will help with transparency and communication to our residents.
Absolutely. So I can provide, there's a public bridge report that we are able to distribute to cities or municipalities. So I'll make sure that when those get done, that they come at different times of the year depending on the dates that they do them. But I'll make sure I provide copies of all those when they're available to you.
Great. And then I understand that all viaducts in Royal Oak are safe. When I was in Birmingham, our neighbor to the north, the viaduct at East Maple and South Eaton visually appears to be well maintained, especially compared to the viaduct at 11 Mile. So how does CN determine which communities get maintenance and cosmetic investments, and is that based on any demographic metric?
That I'll have to refer back to our tracks department on that. I'm not sure. I was just made aware of the Birmingham Bridge. Actually, drove past it on my way here. It's the same identical bridge to the one that is in Royal Oak here, but I'm not sure what the criteria is used for that. There's budgetary purposes. So I really can't answer that question, but I will find out for you, because that is a good example of what a bridge, could look like. So.
Thank you so much. And then the last question, you talked about the timeline for the cosmetic changes on 11 Mile will be the spring of 2025. But the issue tonight, where with the crossing, what's the timeline for fixing that issue?
We're still trying to figure out the root cause of the issue out there. So out of the, the more than 10,000 railroad crossings that we have just in the U.S. alone, everything is a priority. That one, again, part of my job is to find an issue and try to flag that and bring it up to a higher priority level. This one I'm escalating as hard and as high as I can go on it, because I understand the need and the concern. So I don't have an ETA on when that project will be done, but I can guarantee you it's high on my list of priorities.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hunt?
Thank you for being here, and thank you for your presentation. And you did answer many of my questions in your responses to Commissioner Herzog. And thank you for your commitment to building the relationship with Royal Oak and being more responsive and to our inquiries and all. But touching on Commissioner Herzog's last question, from what I understood during your presentation, initially there's going to be sort of a temporary fix for the downtown crossing. Is it sort of like a Band-Aid fix until you're able to determine what the underlying cause is?
I would say so. Again, I'm not an engineer. I'm not sure what the process is, and I was just told very limited information on that crossing. But a long-term solution would ensure that it's not being patched every year or so with that. And ultimately, that's my goal, is to make sure that whatever we do out there is going to, be reliable year after year.
Okay. But something will be done in the short term, just so that this issue won't happen again with the
That is
gentleman.
priority number one.
Okay. Is there any ETA for that?
That I don't. It's our tracks department sometimes has a little different timeline that I like to use, so it's my part or my job to kind of nudge them. But as soon as I get an update, I will definitely pass it along.
Thank you.
Commissioner Macy?
Yeah, I echo everyone saying thank you for being here today. Thank you for your commitment to work more closely with us in the future. We appreciate that we got picked out of the 22, and we hope our bridge can get picked out of the 22 million, however many you have, sooner rather than later. So I missed that you said that you are going to patch the street crossing soonish, sooner than the final solution.
That's the goal.
Okay.
I don't have an ETA for that, unfortunately.
And then there was also the issue of like the steep gradient that goes down. Is that also part of will there be a quick fix to that, or is that a long-term fix?
So tonight, the only concern I had prior to the meeting was the gap in some of the rail sections where it's kind of pulling away. The gradient, I'm first learning about that tonight. I will have to double check with our tracks team and engineering how they do that. Typically when they pour those, it's usually asphalt or concrete. If it's asphalt, typically they just kind of slope it down as it settles. I don't know what the process it would be for straightening out or what they can use, just because of the high volume of trains and what's the word I'm looking for? There's so much vibration there that, like, usually asphalt doesn't have a long shelf life at a crossing, just based on the movement of the rail cars and everything. But I am going to take that back and have that looked at.
Oh, I think it's asphalt.
Is it concrete or is it asphalt?
I think it's asphalt. Yeah.
No concrete.
So the gradient, the part he's talking about with the steep gradient, is asphalt. I mean, I don't know that much about stuff, but I'm pretty sure. Okay, that's helpful. And is it possible that this will be totally redone? This whole the crossing. I'm sorry, not the, they're both intersections, I don't know what to say.
Railroad crossing, say.
But the street, was it like that entirely redone? Like you're saying, we're looking to see what the root cause is, and we're going to try to figure it out. Is it possible that it will be like a different setup entirely, or is it just going to be, you know, we're propping up the?
I would say the goal would be, if we're just going to go out and replace what's there now, that's probably not going to fix it. But when they go and there's a permanent fix in place, a lot of times they'll pull up the existing infrastructure and redo it down. So that would be the time that they could kind of change it to meet the issues that are being brought up tonight.
Okay, and so my final question is about both of the situations together, which is there any way to get moved towards entering a real partnership with the city where, I mean, we have a lot of professionals who can do this kind of work too, and it's somewhat frustrating to us that residents bring us these concerns and we aren't allowed to touch them because because CN, you know, has their own. And you know, even as your description about what you're going to do, kind of do the spalling and strip it away and leave the core concrete. Again, I don't know anything about anything, but it sounds like I don't love the idea. You're like stripping things away and leaving the core concrete. It feels like that's a very temporary fix, and it's not going to be aesthetically pleasing. And I'm just wondering, can we ever work together so that we could do this faster if we could get permission from CN?
Yeah. So when it comes to the work, that's a CN, and that's usually a class 1 railroad policy, is that when you're working around the tracks, you have to be very, very cautious. For example, we're working with a lot of companies on like fiber lines and utilities being bored underneath the crossings, or like right-of-ways. And like, for example, we see a lot of companies that there's a permitting process you have to go through to do that, but a lot of companies like to bypass out and to start working, and any shift in the ballast could cause a catastrophic incident. So there's so many safety protocols in place where we want to make sure if something's done wrong, obviously we don't want a failure like that occurring anywhere, period. So because of the safety components, we don't let other non-CN employees on the track. So I wish I could offer a solution where we could hire a local company to do it, but just the nature of the infrastructure and just what's being hauled on it, and if anything is done wrong or not reported on, and it's also a federal under FRA, they're very strict on the inspections and everything as well. So the short answer to that question is, unfortunately, if I could wave the magic wand, I would, but federal policy and CN policy are very strict on that. But the spalling, I understand the aesthetics of the bridge. I completely get it. I've been around the downtown area, and bridges are, unfortunately, they're not, they're expensive, and they're not, the older ones don't look the greatest unless, you know, you go north of here and you see the one up in Birmingham. But that I have to double check. I'm not sure if that was a railroad or city partnership with that. Sometimes on a lot of these projects, it will be the city will contribute some amount of money, the railroad will match that, or there could be a state grant that's available for a rehabilitation project for the downtown area, whatever. Maybe there's a lot of different ways those could go, and I'm not sure which one that the city did for that project, so that gives me some research to look at when I get back home. But like where I live in South Bend, we have CN, we have Norfolk Southern. Years ago, they were like the main street that runs through downtown. There are two separate grade separations. And the NS tracks were, for example, the bridge was older, but it just didn't necessarily look good. So the city paid the railroad to work to update that area and everything. So there's a lot of different avenues forward with that. But as I mentioned, we have a lot of bridges in the network. I get calls from the city of Chicago daily about bridges up there too. So it's, and we only have so many people working, but so that's why safety of the load over the top is priority number one. But again, that's why I'm here tonight, to see the issue and really kind of nudge our team to see what we can do for that.
That's a very long no, is what I heard there. But I also heard in the middle that it sounds like there is a possibility, like at least financially, to partner and maybe get things done more quickly. I'm going to guess that is what Birmingham did, and I think that would be something that we would be willing to do for these as well. And we did try to put in a grant, I think for a CN grant for the crossing last year. We didn't win, but I don't know if there's a way we could work more closely with you to, make the grant such that it's very appealing.
Yeah, absolutely. We have no issue writing a letter of support for that. There are many communities that I've written support letters for different projects for the RCE, the Rail Crossing Elimination Grant, this year alone. So in the future, it's gotten very highly competitive over the last couple of years, especially this last year for those projects. But I can work with the city to see when those might be coming around for a NOFO or anything coming up in the future, and work with the city to create a support letter and kind of keep you in the loop on that. That's what I do for a lot of cities.
Great, thank you so much.
Commissioner Colo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Of course, thank you all for being here tonight. Lots of good dialogue here. I have a couple questions. I want to start with something we haven't touched on yet, and it is actually the aesthetics of the right-of-way in the downtown. Now, Royal Oak is unique that the train bisects our city, and I'm sure over the tens of thousands of crossings you have, there are some in downtowns. We are probably one of the bigger ones, and definitely the biggest one in Metro Detroit. There's a train that runs through it. If you're a property owner, we probably would have issued a lot of tickets because the grass is very overgrown. And I know that our community development department has stated that they would go mow it, but they're not allowed to. They can't go, there's fences up, we can't go past the fence line. Just from an economic standpoint, it is, it's not good for our community. So is there any plan, anything we can work together on to make visually our downtown look more appealing with the overgrowth on the CN property?
So overgrowth is probably one of the top issues I deal with on a consistently regular basis. As much as I want to say yes, just from our side of it, we have very few crews that cover very many miles when it comes to growth. We deal with everything from a tree that's overhanging in someone's yard to the weeds are growing through their fence to rogue, we can't make this stuff up, rogue squirrels chewing down trees in someone's backyard and then falling, which happen to be on CM property, and everything you can think of. And we only have very few amount of crews that are doing that. Something we partnered with in the last few months is we have a group that came on as a contractor CN that specifically does, I don't want to say lawn care, but more of tree trimming, shrubbery removal, like that type of thing. I believe they're contracted for the entire state of Michigan. And just due to the nature of the railroad, it's unlike a normal business you would have in town where the owners, may be around, there may be presence or something. We just go through so many communities that it's hard to make sure every tree, shrub, everything is pruned back.
Oh, you're an absentee landlord. I gotcha.
Yeah, but we still pay our taxes, so. But I don't want it to go unresolved. Yeah. And that's where, like for the community cleanup, that's why I put that on a high priority, because the trash concerns were looking through previous emails from the past. That seemed to be one of the top issues around certain eras. So I want to make sure we get out there and do as much as we can at that point. But what I can do is we might, and I'd have to look and talk to the company. I'm not sure what they all have planned. We might be able to do something maybe once a year to kind of remove them, whether that's early season, late season. So, but if unfortunately we can't come out like every week and spray and everything.
I get that. It's shrub tree. It's not even trees. I mean, you have trees up in the northern part of the city, but those aren't quite as impactful as the economic impact on the downtown, where it's just junk shrubbery that grows up. So if we can get that taken care of at least once a year is better than where we are right now.
Yeah, and absolutely. And the railroad is such a unique environment that, as you mentioned about having, whether the city or contract with the crews that come out, if it's something where it's on the other side of the fence line, we do have other cities in Michigan, we do contract out with the city that they are authorized to go and remove that, and then they just send us a bill and we take care of it. But when it's on the right of way, it's, again, it's a safety concern. One issue, like mentioned earlier, every 3 hours in the U.S., a person or vehicle is struck by a train. And to work on the railroad, even for our contractors, you have to go through a whole rail safety course that teaches you visibility and all that stuff, because we want everyone out there to be safe. And so there's kind of I don't want to say a control there. We want to make sure the people out there are trained, that are aware of the surroundings, and don't lose focus for 1 second, not see the train coming. So, but I can always, my goal is to schedule like an additional meeting to figure out where these lines are and where maybe we could do like contract work with the city to have stuff removed safely, and then if anything on the right of way, try to figure out maybe a once-a-year thing with that.
Great. So then actually speaking of the rail crossings and people who are struck every year, we have Arts, Beats and Eats that goes through our downtown Labor Day weekend, and it's a huge event for us. I think this year we paid to the tune of almost $25,000 to CN just to get the schedule of when the trains pass. And that was an increase of about $10,000 over last year. That seems like a lot of money to ask for the schedule for 4 days. So can you help me understand why it costs the residents of Royal Oak that much for that schedule?
So this is the first I'm hearing about that. Typically, we do not hand out the schedule of trains to communities. It's a safety reason. It's a security reason. So that's news to me. For my entire time at the railroad, every time we have a community that has like an event in downtown and tracks run through, we get requests for like a slow order, and we, unfortunately, just the amount of cities we go through, we can't do that. So I'm quite surprised we offer that.
Okay.
Again, this is news, so.
So maybe you can connect with our city manager after, maybe tomorrow in an email.
Oh.
We did have a flagman out there, and I believe that's what the expense was for. We have a slow order and we have a flagman. I've worked that event almost every year, so.
And what does the flagman do?
The flagman, what we do is we have boards set up, and so the trains have to stop at the boards, and then the flagman allows the train to come through at a reduced speed. And that's why there's an expense to that. We were not aware of how much it was costing you, but Jeff will look into that. So,
okay.
But that's what's going on there. We do have a slow order, and there is somebody out there controlling train traffic through the city. So that's part of the expense.
Yeah, we definitely want to make sure that the 400-some thousand people that come through Royal Oak are safe and secure during that event. Maybe we could talk about that cost and making sure it's allocated correctly in the future.
Absolutely. That's why I have the local expert here, because Dave knows everything going on in the city.
So a couple more questions. So actually, speaking of the safety and the speed that the trains go, I know our neighbors in Ferndale have, I live on the south side of town, pretty close to a track, and it's now white noise to me, but you constantly hear when they're coming through I think it's 7 whistles that go off. I appreciate that. I know our neighbors in Ferndale have changed their crossings, so they're not quite as loud. What's the process for potentially slowing down trains through Royal Oak in our south side through downtown before it gets into that kind of longer stretch that's elevated in the northern part of town?
Yeah, I can speak on that. Okay, so when the trains are going northbound, they're going up quite a steep grade, so they have to get going, so the momentum pushes the train up the grade. Okay, so you can't slow if you slow a train down coming into town or going through town to the north, you could potentially have the train stall because it doesn't have enough power to get up the grade. Also, the amount of crossings that are in the city of Royal Oak in that short distance between, you've got Washington, 4th Street, the 5th Street crossing, 6th Street, and then Main, and yeah, I think I got them all. You always want whistles blowing there because there's a ton of you guys know, I mean, I've lived in this area my entire life. There's a ton of traffic, there's a ton of pedestrian traffic there. We want to let people know we're coming through, especially when you got like Amtrak, you've got these longer trains, you want to give people plenty of time to get out of the way. So that's what's important to us is safety. The quiet zone in Ferndale might work for them to some extent, but it's more dangerous for vehicles and pedestrians at those crossings.
Okay.
So.
So then a couple more questions too. Actually, speaking of safety, getting back to the bridges. I did hear you have 10,000 bridges, and then there's a priority based on how to repair them. Do you know how that priority is allocated?
That I don't. I'm sure there's an equation that our tracks and bridges teams uses for that to make priority. I'm not sure.
Can you share with us where we are on that priority list?
So part of my job in public affairs is a community alerts me on an issue or something maybe it's been lingering around for a while, and my goal is to push those teams to address those issues and try to work. Ultimately, it's not my decision on where those projects go, but I can nudge and take the concerns back to them, and that's part of it. So I can't give you an exact on where that's at. But as I mentioned, though, like aesthetics is pretty low on there, and we're getting to a point where, like highway roads and overpasses, we have a lot of aging infrastructure, and there's a lot of maintenance that goes with those. So I can't give you an exact ETA on like a rebuild of a bridge or even repair. But like I mentioned earlier, there's different grants available through the state and federal government that could assist as well.
So what is the life expectancy of a bridge, just out of curiosity? Because I know like 11 miles, it's almost as old as Oakland Elementary, almost 100 years old here.
I believe it's almost 100 years old. When those bridges were built, they were built to last. Yeah. I mean, there's so much concrete in those that they're very hard to, they'll be there well after I'm gone. For example, they're built tough. We have a bridge in Lansing. There's a Facebook page about it, actually. It's called the Big Penny Pennsylvania Avenue Truck Munching Bridge, quote, that eats truck every few weeks due to the low clearance, and that was built around the same time this bridge was, and that bridge is still structurally good too. So they're built to last.
Wait, can we paint our bridges like Big Penny? Because that is much more aesthetically pleasing than any of our viaducts.
On the side note, they were trespassing putting that stuff up there, so that's another issue I'm dealing with here on that. But now painting the bridge, that's something I can take back. We typically don't do it because if we paint something, or we get a lot of requests from cities, I want to put, welcome to insert city here on the bridge. Problem is maintenance on that. After a while, the paint chips, who's going to maintain it? Who's going to, if they have to go up on the track to do some sort of touch up, there's all these little concerns there. So, but we do have some bridges in our network that we have a model, it's like out of sight, out of mind. And where we have some bridges where we paint them like a matte black or a gray to kind of blend in with the background and not to kind of stand out. So that's something I'm looking at. I can't guarantee whether it's a possibility, but that is one idea that has popped in my mind to see about, some sort of paint on that as well.
Millennial gray would look great on some of the bridges, that's for sure.
All right.
So I guess the last question, I do appreciate you being here and answering all these questions. As we're talking about that 11-mile viaduct, you did talk about scaling, going back to the concrete. And I guess one thing that most residents will look at, myself included, is that you could see exposed rebarb that's not only broken, but just completely rusted away. So I guess the question becomes, was that put in there as redundancy in the first place? Is it not needed? I mean, how should we be assured that rebarb is not serving a purpose that it was originally meant to serve, and that's okay?
So again, I'm not an engineer or a structural, so I can't talk about what the compo or the composition of the bridges and everything. But all of our engineers that do the bridge inspections, they're certified, they're federally licensed and meet all the recommended qualifications. So I trust their word that when they look at these bridge reports, they look at all that, and if they're going to make a repair to a bridge, they know what they're doing. So I can't answer that question, but if that's what they're telling me, then I would trust myself to that bridge.
Because I could say a lot of the comments and feedback we do get from residents is the rebarb that you see. You see exposed rebarb.
Yeah, it's, from what I understand, I think there's just so many layers of everything. I think part of that is to support the cosmetic concrete that is existing on that, but the core structural concrete, from what I understand, is still, it's all there.
Okay. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cheatham.
Thank you for being here, and a lot of my questions were answered. I appreciate my colleagues here up at the table with their questions. I did want to just go back to the annual safety checks that you mentioned. It sounded from your description that they are predominantly focused on whether a overpass can continue to sustain the weight of the train and the freight it's carrying. But I wonder, do you also do similar annual checks of street crossings to look for safety for pedestrians? Here in Royal Oak, we're also really striving to make Royal Oak walkable for everyone, accessible for everyone, and supporting multimodal transportation. So just want to make sure that, that there's regular checks for people walking in wheelchairs, on bicycles, with strollers, I also think about, I'm not an engineer, but like, a lot of our crossings are also not perpendicular angles. And so the gentleman talking about the caster wheel getting stuck, I mean, that sounds like a horrifying incident. I could also imagine similar caster wheels on strollers or bicycle wheel getting stuck. So what kind of checks do you do to make sure everything can prevent that sort of accident?
Okay, so we have the signals department checks the crossings every month, and there's a log maintained of that. Also, there's event recorders in there in case there is an incident. So, but I know that specifically the 5th Street crossing we've looked at a number of times, and we're trying to make improvements there. It's just, it's going to involve a lot of work, like Jeff said, and but we are 100% committed to doing the right thing there. So.
Not to look like a slacker, but that was my sole question. So thank you very much.
Well, I want to thank both of you. You guys have fielded a lot of questions here, and I appreciate the fact that you're vested in investing in better outcomes in our community and taking safety as a priority. And by the way, I'm familiar with South Bend. I know that drive inside and out.
Oh yeah, it's a fun one.
It's closer than Indianapolis. And I'm also familiar with CN Railroad as well. As a kid, my uncle was an EVP at CN. Went to the little awesome special treatment, the CN Tower, growing up and all that. He went on to run Ontario Hydro after, but real good guy. And I look at him and I know if he was made aware of some of the challenges we have on 5th Street with Arnie, I know in a heartbeat he would say, yes, fix that right now. Give Mr. Price the timeline, give him the whatever he needs to get this fixed, because poor Arnie, I mean, what a scary thing. My heart is beating as he's telling that story again. And to think about, he lives in the neighborhood, he lives in the area, and he's doing his thing in town and getting stuck. And I understand there's a short-term repair and a long-term repair, and I know you guys are looking into it. But I think we really got to push you on a time. Like by the end of the week, Mr. Price, I know you work for a big company and there's lots of players, there's people that run schedules and all of this stuff, but if I'm CN and I'm thinking, oh my God, there's a big issue right now on 5th Street in Royal Oak, but it's just not a priority, that makes me think, well, what the hell is going on in the rest of my network that this one issue is not a priority, which seems like at least a simple patch to begin with to keep an eye on it until something long-term can be fixed. So I think that there's no winning not addressing it right away. And if you need any help or support, I like to think my reputation as a guy that tells a lot of dad jokes and stuff like that. But I guess I've been known to raise a shitstorm from time to time, and I'm happy to absolutely do it. It's not a threat, but I want to help you because I know you work for a big company. I know both of you are concerned and care about this situation. And if there's anything I can do, and you want to bring back to your team that the mayor is infuriated and all of whatever it takes, let's see by the end of the week, reach out to this commission and say, hey, I spoke to whomever, all the way up to Tracy, whoever you got to talk to find out, we got to get this fixed right away. It is everything's a priority, but we're talking about a highly densely populated, highly trafficked area and literally evidence of people getting stuck in that area. I just can't see if there's bigger priorities than that at CN, then, oh my gosh, my imagination can't even go there. I'm like, oh, which I imagine is not the case. So you're working through the bureaucracy. Sometimes, giving you a little ammunition to get through that quicker. Let us know how we can do that.
I appreciate that.
And I know you guys are here both for the best intentions, and there's a lot of issues, and it's hard. We got to work through them. We got to keep at it. But right now, I think the laser focus is getting that 5th Street intersection fixed right away. I mean, and I know you're saying because you can't make the answer because you're not the one making the decision, but we got to get from a CN, not you guys, okay, but from a CN point of view, it's unacceptable to hear, we're going to plan, right? So we need, I think at this point, a line drawn in the sand, phones ringing. Yep, we're coming out there on Friday, we're coming out there on Monday, we're patching it, fixing it, and then we're going to update you on a monthly basis what the long-term plan is. That would be ideal.
No, I agree, and I'll be frank. Some of the issues I run into is the crossings here, other than maybe the 5th Street, are in very good condition. To a lot of crossings I deal with, a lot of other communities where, they're safe for trains, but if you have a car, it's not the greatest. So I balance a lot of those as well. Of where a car goes flat or someone almost goes off the whether they're distracted or something like that. So I try to take every concern, seriously when we get one. Our team is very limited on everything, but learning and hearing what I've heard today about this crossing and the additional information, I will take it back to our team and our tracks department and have that addressed as soon as I can.
We just did a proclamation, about seeing tracks, think train, and 248 fatalities a year last year happened. Let's not get to 249.
Agree.
Let's get to lower. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Well, you guys got a tough job, so
And I appreciate your time tonight. And again, everyone here, should have my contact information. If there's any issues or urgencies, and I've got the address, the issues that came up tonight, I'll take those back. Any other things or any concerns from citizens, please reach out to me. My cell number, email's on there, and I'm your person. So.
And we'll get at least something by the end of this week from you saying, here's the update,
I can't guarantee by the end of the week. It's Rail Safety Week and there's events and our train teams are going everywhere. I will work as fast as I diligently can on that.
Okay. Just let them know that if they don't get you the answer you need, that this guy will try to find the answer independently, which isn't always the best way to go about it.
Well, I'm clear.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Price.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to number 8 tonight, which is the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to pull anything off the consent agenda? Commissioner Macy. A and K. Anybody else? Well, I'd like to pull off H, just to talk a second about the genesis of where we're at with Standard Resolution 1. Okay. All right. Does anyone wish to move the consent agenda exclusive of A, H, and K? We have a motion by Commissioner Colo, a second by Commissioner Herzog. Discussion. All right. With none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Okay, so that brings us to A, Commissioner Macy.
Yes, we received a request from a public commenter to do a slight edit to the public comment notes from the last meeting, and Clerk Hollis is agreeable to making that change. So just asking her to make the change and bring it back to us.
Okay. So then no action, just we'll get these represented to us.
Right.
Okay. That would be, we'll go with K next. A little bit out of order here.
I just saw some lurkers in the audience. I thought they might have something to say.
Hello, I am Elena, the City Manager Fellow, and I am here this evening to present to you Rachel Andrews. She is the chair of the Human Rights Commission, and she will be giving you a brief snippet of what the Human Rights Commission has been up to and how they have planned for the following year ahead.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody, Mayor Fournier and commissioners. As Elena said, I'm here to speak on behalf of the Human Rights Commission as we presented our annual report to you today. The Royal Oak Human Rights Commission has been working diligently this year to establish goals for the next 5 years. At our January and February meetings, we brought in a facilitator to help us through the deep process of organizing our very complicated thoughts. In this process, we produced several pillars which we're now using as anchors for our plans. And in addition to that, the facilitator, which we are all very excited about, applied for and was elected to take a seat on the board, Gerardo Aponte Safe. He's been an amazing addition. Our primary goal this past year has been to begin to make our presence in the community known. In addition to events we have participated in, including the naturalization event, Family Pride, and Juneteenth, We have been reaching out to organizations and individuals in the area for possible collaborations. For instance, we have connected with the Diversity Club at Royal Oak High School, and we've offered to sponsor one of their events this coming year, as well as to assist in promoting their activities. We had a high school student from Royal Oak High School on the commission last year and feel strongly that having a student on the commission strengthens us. I know of at least 2 students who have expressed interest for that seat this year and are applying. Our biggest upcoming project for this year, one we've been working on all summer, is to release a survey to the community, including workers, visitors, students, and residents. We feel it is very important to reach beyond residents of the city, as Royal Oak is a destination city, and the environment we create here reaches beyond the borders of the city. This is going to be a very complex project, requiring extensive outreach, establishing connections throughout the community, and creating a survey which gives us a comprehensive idea of how the community feels the city is dealing with issues of human rights. It also will allow us to understand any concerns community members might have. It is our hope to release that survey in December or January, and then future plans will be to hold town halls in the community in response to whatever information we gather from the survey. The Commission would like to thank profusely Susan Barkman and Elena Brash for their help and guidance in this last year, and thank you to you all, as always, for your continued support for the work of the Human Rights Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Colo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say, Dr. Andrews and everyone else here, thank you so much. I mean, you all have really done more than we ever could have expected, right? You took the first year, this is an organizational year, try to figure out who you are, what you're doing, and why we're doing it. I think we always knew it in our heart, but you took it and put pen to paper to actually define it, and now we're doing it. So thank you for all the hard work in the entire committee.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Hunt.
Oh, no, I'd like to echo Commissioner Colo's sentiments. Thank you for all that you've done. This was a brand new commission. You built it from the ground up, and it sounds like you're planning to do great things, and you have been doing great things. But I have a question about the survey that you're planning to release, and you indicated that there's going to be a town hall. So is it your anticipation that the data you receive from the surveys, there'll be a town hall and discussion session about that, or what is the purpose of the town hall?
I think we're actually thinking about multiple town halls, maybe pointed at specific communities to give them a safe space to really articulate what their concerns are. Does that answer your question?
Oh, sure, it absolutely does. And I'm sure this is still in the planning stage. There's still some things coming out of that. But again, thank you so much.
Okay.
Now, just echo everything. Incredible task. I mean, it's one thing for, to pass an ordinance and, put the commission in place. It's another thing to get to that North Star and kind of have it established, but getting it from essentially a concept to a working committee making our lives better in this city is really a testament to the people. And we're so grateful in a time where people are holding back from volunteering and signing up for community service. We applaud all of the folks on this board and city staff for taking time out of their schedules to support it. And really, I mean, building things are hard, and it's a churn process, and it doesn't come without grit, and it doesn't come without, I imagine, a lot of gut-wrenching decisions because so much is unknown. And but I'm so proud that we have the right people in place to do it. So this is
I will say it has been a lot of work and like you said, building from the ground up, but it's an amazing group of people. I have learned so much working with these people. I can't even articulate it. So
that's so good to hear. Well, good.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Item H, we had a number of people come for public comment, and I heard some things that I'm hoping we can get some clarity on. Oh, do we have to accept the report for Oh, we forgot to do that. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Move that we accept the HRC annual report.
We have a motion by Commissioner Macy, second by Commissioner Herzog. Any discussion? All right, with none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, the report is accepted. Sorry, I forgot that important step. So with Mount Vernon, Ms. Donahue, I know this has been, parts of Mount Vernon have been brought up here before, and I know we have our process in place. Just maybe a little bit of background, and I know it's in the letter, but we received, we weren't as a city, so to speak, out there saying, hey, let's go pave this block. This was actually initiated by a resident on that block that went and got petitions and put it in front of us to be considered.
One of the residents had come to us, I think it was in February or March. And as you know, Mount Vernon has come before this commission, I think 3 or 4 times since I've been with the city, and probably more than that before that. In the past, they've really never been able to get enough momentum to get the entire street paved, and it was usually just one long petition for all 3 blocks. This time, the petitioner had asked that I create 3 separate petitions, one for each block, and I believe she had like block captains circulating it for each block. So this westernmost block is the one that we received back. Originally, when we just counted the signatures and the frontage for each signature, it was 54% in favor. And then we looked a little more closely and realized one of the signatures was technically not the property owner. And so we discounted that one, which took it to 46%. So we're right near that 50% level. It is 11 of the 22 properties did sign in favor of it. So because it was so borderline, we thought we should present it to the commission for a decision here and see if you wanted to move forward with it.
And talk about standard resolution 1 for us.
Sure. So special assessment process, it's a 4-meeting process, nice and long. So this first standard resolution basically just directs staff, present this to the city assessor and let the city assessor give us a report of what the district will be. And I would bring that to you next month. You would look at it, potentially approve it. The next directive would say, now set up a public hearing of necessity. So we would do that at the 3rd meeting. And then finally, we would have a public hearing of assessment, which would be the 4th meeting. These are typically a month apart, so about a 4-month process, tonight being the first step of that 4-month process.
Yeah, so the first would be, hey, there's 46%. It would be in our decision to say, yep, go ahead and at least, assess the district, kind of map it out a little bit. And then the necessity would be the next meeting, whether or not we think it's appropriate to do it or not, if it's necessary.
Correct.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Douglas.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I have been through, Ms. Donahue estimates that it's been 3 or 4 times. I've pretty much lost count of how many times we've had paving issues on Mount Vernon brought towards us. Here we see just the westernmost block being proposed. And what people may not realize is that at the end of that block on the east side of the Herb Arboretum Park is a public parking lot. It may be informal, but nonetheless, people come down this street to park there in the park. So that's one of, I think, the issues that would be solved by paving this street. While we prefer to have more than 50% of the property owners in agreement, it is not necessary. I've been on this commission when we've paved streets where we did not have 50%. So we can still move forward, I believe, with the percentage that we have. And I just feel like that for the sake of this and future commissions spending time on this, it will be back again, for the sake of our staff going through the drill of assessment and so forth and study, I hope that we will move forward with this over the next 4 months.
Commissioner Hunt?
I know that this is the first step, and there may be, other meetings and all that come down the road. But I think my concern here is that we don't have the 50% or at least 50%. And this is a huge cost for the homeowners. This isn't just a couple $1,000s. There's one individual who's talking about $30,000. This is a lot of money for people that the majority of the homeowners don't necessarily want this, and they've indicated that they moved to the area because of the natural nature of this piece of property or piece of roadway. I walk down the street daily, and my concern with paving this road is, as it was discussed at public comment, the trees. It is a very tree-rich area, and I don't know, maybe Ms. Donahue can tell if, you may not have done it, a lot of assessment on this yet, but how many trees would be at risk if we have to pave this or do end up paving this area?
Sure. Yeah, I think we've had a lot of discussion amongst the neighbors out there. I've heard a lot of tall tales. I think 86 trees was mentioned at public comment. Definitely not the case here. When we created the petitions for each block, we stated specifically, these are the trees that we would have to take down in order to build the road. So for this block, I had 9 trees listed, which is not a small amount. Most of them were on the south side of the street. Some of them were smaller, but some of them were, 5 foot, 4 foot diameter trees. So very old, mature trees that we simply just couldn't put a curb next to without totally damaging the root system of that tree. So for this block, we're looking at 9 trees. I don't know the other blocks off the top of my head.
So it's 9 trees that would have to be removed?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I would hate to say, let's move forward with it if we don't know that we're necessarily going to end up moving forward with it and agreeing with it. But I just feel as if I am a no on this one. A no with moving forward with reviewing everything.
Yeah, and I appreciate Commissioner Douglas's remarks, and I appreciate Commissioner Hunt's remarks. I think I take a similar maybe thought process here where if we're not getting over the threshold of 50%, then the question is, what is the overall benefit? And while I know there's a parking lot or kind of at the end of the street, and I know with the paving of the road for DPS and everybody, there's all these sort of benefits of having a paved road versus an unpaved road. But when you look at the fact that you're at 46%, you look at that 9 trees, some 5 foot in diameter, may come down, and that the cost here, borne by the residents for, a 46%, petition rate click, or even if it was 50, let's just say it was 50-50, do the negatives outweigh the positives when you look at the total impact to the neighborhood? And it is one of these unique areas. So, I understand, like, if it were up to me and we could do this without touching any trees and all the, 60% of the neighbors were on board, and we weren't gonna, we were gonna be able to control, runoff, and we wouldn't have to go out there and patch the road. And I forget, what was the name of the treatment that we did back in the day? There was some sort of oil and calcium treatment. I forget what it was called. It was kind of like a semi-paved, whatever. It was a funny name, and I thought it was, what's it called?
Chip seal?
Chip seal. Yeah, it wasn't a funny name. I was like, chip seal, I don't know what that means. And we had a big talk about it. But I think for me, and it's only a block, right? So we haven't seen the other petitions. And if you're not going to go the whole way, why go one block too? So that just increases the cost for everybody too. So I think I'm leaning against even supporting this first stage because of the 46%. When it was 52, I might have been, okay, well, if a majority of folks want it. But even then, you have all these other things we have to evaluate in the criteria. And I think Commissioner Hunt made some really good points I need to consider. Commissioner Colo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I definitely hear, we hear the residents tonight, and then we, hear the comments at the table. At least for me, I'm always willing to go to resolution 2 and 3, because that gets us a drawing of what this might actually look like. We can see what those trees are, where they are, how that impacts the canopy. We can then see what the water runoff improvement might be, because now it's going into drainage, it's going into our, the storm system as opposed to sitting in the road. We know that having paved roads is just better all around. We don't have to, even though we're not using chip seal on them, we are spraying them and grading them. I believe DPS grades them every year. So there's maintenance that goes into that is beyond a paved road. But either way, I'm willing to at least go to resolution 3 where we have the public hearing, and then we send out letterings and mailings, and we have a public hearing. We let the people speak, and then that is when people who are for or against it could come out and really give us their vision and give us their why this might be a good idea or bad. Right now, it is, if you flip one house on the block, it is beyond 50-50. Now it's on the other side. It's a majority of them do want to have it paved because of the large lot sizes. And if you add in the city property, there's a very large portion of city property that we're taking out of this, and our policy has been to pave roads. If you add that in, it probably goes over. So at the very least, this is only resolution 1, going to 2 to see what the district is, and then 3 to see what that is. I'm fine at least going to 3 to hearing the public comment and hearing that back and forth that I think is kind of productive when we do at that point actually have drawings. We just did this on this south side here, I believe is Forestdale, where we actually made a compromise where we stopped paving. We only paved half the road, and we changed the size of the paving. We reduced a little after resolution 1. So there is if we go along the process, we can at least see it and make a change to it or stop it. And we are very far away. I won't go as far as Commissioner Douglas did to say, like, let's absolutely do it, which I appreciate the sentiment. I think that's a fair point, but we're still in the exploratory phase. So at least moving on to, like, what is the next phase, I'm willing to move a handful more resolutions just to get the science and to see the maps behind it.
I'll go with Commissioner Herzog and then Commissioner Macy.
I have a question about the equipment. So when we were on our orientation, we went to DPS and they showed us all the equipment for the various roads. And there is a piece of equipment for grading just the dirt roads, and it's a big expense to maintain and then use. And it's only for a couple roads in the city of Royal Oak. And we are an urban city, and so we have a couple streets that need this specific equipment. Is there any other equipment, like can you plow a dirt road? Like what are other things that we should be taking into consideration of, like the cost of having just a few roads in our city that are dirt?
I mean, I'm not a maintenance expert, but I do think the grader is the appropriate piece of equipment. I don't think we would want to try and use something that's like a snowplow or something, for example. I don't think that would really get into the stone itself and regrade it and put it on the appropriate slope. I'm not sure if that's what you're getting at.
I guess this is more DPS director's question, is not to use it for another use, but we have an equipment that's used for grading for dirt roads, but we might only have a handful of dirt roads. But I don't know what other equipment that we might need for just these dirt roads that add a cost for maintaining dirt roads in the city as opposed to just maintaining the paved roads.
Okay, sorry, I misunderstood your question. I don't think there's anything else substantial. I mean, they'll bring their trucks with some stone in it potentially, but they use that for other uses in the city as well. So I think the grader is the primary piece of equipment that has a fair amount of cost associated with it. We do have about 3 miles of unpaved road, so it is more than a couple. But I know it's a lot more time and effort that DPS puts into those roads compared to our entire road network. Substantially more city funds are used really to maintain those.
Okay.
That said, the street itself, this one block, is just under $1 million that the city would be fronting. So it's a really big cost to us as well. And that's something to consider because that comes from our road millage dollars. And so something else probably needs to get cut. So that's another thing to consider moving forward with this.
Okay, and then my other question is, can you talk a little bit about the drainage stormwater system for like the dirt roads versus like the paved roads?
I mean, same idea. Every street has the catch basins, but they get covered really easily. They get full of debris, so they require a little bit more maintenance to vacuum them out. I don't know how often DPS goes there, but I imagine it's more often than on a paved road. But there's nothing special aside from additional maintenance to keep those catch basins clear.
Okay. And we want to keep those clear for like flooding purposes and water quality purposes. Down
Water
the
is a place to go, and if we get so much debris in a catch basin that it blocks the pipe and then the water can't go anywhere, then you have a flooded road and it starts getting up towards people's houses. So definitely want to keep those open and clear.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Macy?
Yeah, thank you. So maybe you don't know these questions, but the other two pieces of Mount Vernon, are those petitions coming back or do they not get enough? Do you know?
I received a call earlier this week about the first block right off of Main Street, and the petitioner felt good that he was going to get a few more signatures once he had some answers to questions to help take care of some of the, the talk around neighbors there. So I've heard from the first block. I have not heard anything at all from the middle block there.
Okay. And then, boy, that would be funny if you.
Yeah.
And then so you mentioned that they brought this at 54%, or they thought so, but what turned out one of the people who signed wasn't the homeowner. Do you know if they have any intention of trying to go get that signature, or?
We've actually held off on this for over a month, just trying to give them the chance to get that signature. Interestingly enough, one of the people opposed this evening was that signature. It was the actual property owner was here. So I don't know what the story is there. It's a little interesting. But we gave them the opportunity to get that signature or to get more, and they finally came back and said, we're not able to, can you please present this with the 46%?
Okay. Okay, so those I think were my questions. And then for the commission, I agree with Commissioner Colo that it seems like the time that we're supposed to have the discussion about whether or not this is a necessity, whether or not we should be doing this, is that meeting of necessity where both sides know that they should show up and present their case. Like the petitioners thought that their petition was their case today, and so the people who are against the petition showed up to speak, but no one who was in favor of the petition came to speak. But there's literally a time in our 4-month schedule that allows for that. So I'm certainly willing to let it proceed until that time. I did have one more question, sorry. So you mentioned the road millage, and we pay a significant expense of this. So remind me, what percent do we pay for these roads? Do you remember?
So the deal is we pay 60%, they pay 40% for frontage, and these are all front lots, so it's an even 60-40 split. Plus the city owns a decent amount of frontage at the very west end of the block there. So that adds a little bit more to the city side of things. But the other thing to keep in mind is the city does front all that money. So I think it's a 15-year maximum payback period, but we have to kind of put all that money out there first to pay for the job.
Yeah, and it's not like required that we put that in. That's part of our kind of road village agreement, is that we decided that we would, as a sort of incentive to people to pave these remaining unpaved roads, put in that 60%, right?
Yes, normally they have to pay the whole 100%, which is, as was mentioned, a very large cost.
So, and was the 30,000 100%? No,
no, that's only 40%. Yeah.
So, we're the road millage that we're renewing. There's been talk before that there might be some dollars to spread around in some other things that right now we do these special assessments for. Would that include these roads? Like, would it include possibly upping the amount we would pay for these roads or not?
Yeah, every year when we do our capital improvement plan, I do set aside funds for special assessment projects, not really knowing what's going to come our way. I have not set aside this much, like 900,000 is quite a bit. But we do budget for that, and I try to put cushion in every job that we have, because I know that that's what happens every year. Like something else gets thrown into the pot that we need to fund. So yeah, there might be some shuffling and making things work. I wouldn't use that as a reason to say let's not pave this street. I think we can find a way and still keep our other goals met. With the millage.
I was actually thinking more on the resident side, like is there a chance that we would go to like 70% or something like that?
That's your call.
Do we revisit that? I don't remember having revisited it before.
We revisited it, what was it, maybe a year ago or so? Then that's when it used to be a 50-50 split, now it's 60-40. Okay. We can revisit it. I don't know that we had it on our...
the change to bump it up to 60. Okay.
I think there was a comment that says, once we're 5 years into the millage, maybe it wasn't really a directive, but maybe that's a good time to bring it back to us and, see where we stand with the roads that remain at that time.
Okay. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
So just a couple points. I mean, one, we have a policy that if over 50%, we bring it to the city commission, right?
I wouldn't say it's not a written policy.
It's not a written policy,
It is
but
the
it's
rule of
been
thumb we
rule
followed,
of
yes.
And, in this particular case, it's 46%. Well, I understand like, oh, well, we could just go and have the public hearings and all of that. If there's no desire at this point right now to move forward, or we think that we're going to have significant encumbrances related to, necessity, then we should probably just cut it right now and save engineering, assessment, everybody, and the residents a lot of time from coming out. The other issue is, yes, it's 46%. Okay, it's not 10%, but it's 46. Is $879,000 out of the road millage, where we might be able to apply that to projects where people have 75% enthusiasm behind. Maybe there's things we want to do with painting or striping or putting in pedestrian crosswalks or whatever we want to do that has a much higher, better and higher use of the money than putting pavement down a road that's going to take away, just in this one section, 9 trees. Or was it 9? 9 trees that are very mature. The vast majority don't want it, and if it does go through, it's costing $13,000, $20,000, $10,000, $30,000 to the residents that aren't in overwhelming support of it. It's a different and unique street. The cost here is really what's getting me, and then the fact that we're taking down 9 trees is getting me a little bit here. So, I don't know that it's, it bothers me too that if we don't have all of them lined up, like all 3 of them, like why are you going to pave 1/3 of it and not, it seems a little clunky, and it's 46%, and I would say push it back until they get well over 50%, and, or close to, even if it's over 50, you still have to look out for the folks that, that's a significant number of people that don't want something, that have to pay a significant amount of money. So, maybe I came in here thinking one way, and maybe I've been convinced the other way. So, I think I saw, was it a hand down here? Commissioner Douglas?
Well, I will just say, it's not 50% of the people, it's 50% of the frontage, so.
Well, it's 11 out of 22, so it's still less, it's about 50, I guess, if you look at
It
the
would
people.
be exactly 50, right. So, well, I'm going to give this a try. I'm going to move approval of Resolution 1.
Motion by Commissioner Douglas, second by Commissioner Macy. Discussion? No discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No. So Fournier and Hunt on the no, the rest on the yeas. So we will, I guess, come back. The next step would be to give a more concrete plan to people about what it would look like. Ah, that was an accidental dad joke. I didn't see myself going down that road.
She's right.
Oh, man. So we'll come back with a plan that basically says, okay, now we're going to spend money and doing an assessment on it and letting people know exactly what it is. And do folks have a chance to come back and say, oh, now that I see that, I want to change my vote?
They can speak at the public hearing, but we don't re-petition or anything like that, so.
I know we don't, but it seems like we should. Maybe more people want it, or maybe more people are like, oh, damn, no way, I don't like this. I don't know. Okay, so I guess the decision was made by the democratic process here to move forward to Resolution 2. And I highly encourage the residents of Mount Vernon to come out and express their thoughts and opinions, and, in a very productive way, a way that's not, full of anger, but full of good reasoning and rational, whatever side of the equation you're on. So.
And there will be a notice public hearing for that time. Right?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. That brings us back to the regular part of the agenda, which is item 9, which is approval of the Downtown Development Authority downtown mural at 204 West 4th Street. Ms. Brash.
Hello. So yes, this mural, is this on Noir Leather or Cacao Tree? Cacao. This is at Cacao Tree Cafe. It is part of the DDA's Painting Downtown Mural Project, which is in its pilot phase. This program will further encourage downtown businesses that have the capacity to get a mural put up and give the opportunity for an artist to get their artwork up. This mural has been approved by both the DDA's selection committee as well as the Commission for the Arts.
Questions? Well, we love art.
Yeah.
And we love our downtown. And Commissioner Colo. No, go ahead. No, it's okay. You interrupted. I had like probably the best poetic response, and now it's gone.
It was probably
Totally vaporized.
It was stroke of genius, I'm sure.
It was.
Yeah. You can really paint a good picture. So I do have a question about, first of all, this is an amazing program, so thank you for doing this. I know that DDA had allocated 4 sites total. We're seeing 2 tonight. There's 2 other sites that are in our downtown. One is on the WROK on 3rd, and the other one is the Henry Ford building, right?
Yes, sorry. There's 5 total sites, actually.
5, even better.
One of the sites did not receive enough submissions, and the artwork that was submitted was conflicting to kind of our ordinances and commercial messaging. So the DDA has moved forward with these first 2. The plan is to move forward with the next 2 in the next month, kind of meeting these different public meeting schedules to either get it scheduled before weather turns this fall or get it scheduled for the beginning of spring when the weather breaks. The intent is to pilot this as these are our walls that are well viewed. So foot traffic by the WROK on 3rd, foot traffic by Henry Ford, foot traffic right there at Cacao Tree. That's a major artery for folks going from Center Street over to the Music Theater and Washington Street to our retail shops. So, I mean, long answer is these are the first 2. There's going to be 2 more in the next 30 days coming before you. And then after that, we'll begin the process of potentially the committee has liked a lot of the art that didn't get selected. And so seeing if there's more spaces downtown and if there's more money in our placemaking budget to make sure that those get up as well.
Yeah. And you know, this art Cacao Tree will definitely distract from all the trash and rubbish by the train track. So this is going to be really nice. They're gone. No one's
trashing CNN or CN.
No. Why would I? So my question though is, the 2 that I mentioned, WROK on 3rd and the Henry Ford building, could be really good placemaking for the city as to how we help with people find their ways around downtown. So if you can incorporate somehow, if you're still selecting art or talking to artists, we have a parking structure that has 700 spots on the other side of that. So to point them down that beautiful paved, we stamped the alley with concrete, to point people into safe and secure parking in our downtown could be really good wayfinding. So I hope that we're using this opportunity for that also.
Yes, so not necessarily in the murals are we putting wayfinding, but the DDA is continuing to talk about our wayfinding. We're talking about how do we make the parking structures kind of hit people in the face as far as this is the most attractive, cheapest, easiest, walking friendly place to park in downtown. And every single parking structure in downtown is about a 3-minute walk to a nearby business. So while we're not incorporating wayfinding into the murals, we do hopefully have some plans coming down the pike that are going to amplify the wayfinding message around parking.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Oh, Commissioner Cheatham.
I just want to comment. I really think this is a great program, and I thought these 2 pieces were stunning and just really, I love the color, and they just seem very forward-thinking to me, so I really like that. And, you know, I did have the thought of people riding on Amtrak from Pontiac to Chicago will go right by these beautiful murals and see, you know, really, you know, Royal Oak will just be so striking to the people on the train. So we are making a little bit of a better railway experience, I guess, there. But thank you very much for bringing this forward.
The artists are actually with us, so big commendation to Amadeus Roy, who did the Cacao Tree, and Sean Graham, who did the one going on Noir Leather.
Wonderful. Yeah, you guys did great work, man. I'm always impressed with artists. I still do stick figures. So when those come back in style, I'm booked for business, let me tell you.
Do you hear the artist's interpretation of the murals?
Yeah, do you guys want to speak to your art at all? There's no shame if you don't want to come up. If you want to come up, great. That would be... Okay, come on up.
Sorry, it's been a while of being quiet. My name is Amadeus Roy. I live on 1506 Poplar Ave in the Arlington townhomes. I've been here, this will be my 4th year in Royal Oak. Originally from Harper Woods, over on the east side. Speak to my piece. Is there like images possible? It's hard to describe abstract work. If not, I can tell a story about it instead. Oh, cool, cool. So the title of it is Inflection Point. Sorry, my brain's been scrambled across multiple projects this week, so I will try and dial into this one. I think I just saw it. Yeah, haha. So I work a lot with surrealist abstraction, primarily inspired by nature. I've heard a lot of people mention how they walk around Royal Oak a lot, especially on Mount Vernon. I'm one of those people. I bike and walk all the time. I've been on like almost every street in the city. That one is beautiful the way it is. But to speak to the nature of it, it captures 2 abstracted mountainscapes with my character, the Nomad, who I use to capture kind of the storytelling of the human experience. He is a non-identifiable character, so it's not like any particular race or walk of life. It's more of the overall humanity. I work with very macro level existential concepts to try and speak to a betterment of all humanity's future. So this is kind of telling the point of the hero's journey where it's the leap of faith, where you really bank on your own skills and knowledge and take the step towards whatever change you are pushing for, whatever you may see that being. But I always try to work with, even though they're macro level concepts and they can be very scary, I try to work with very optimistic and kind of like holding your hand along the way type messaging. That way it's much more approachable and it's not so overbearing to the viewer. And also I just work with very vivid colors, to really catch the eye. Also, it just makes me feel good. I like mixing my colors that way. So yeah, I'm very excited to do this. I actually was just at Cacao Tree today to give their smoothies a try because they're amazing. So I'm excited to do the project, and thank you guys for doing it. So yeah.
Great.
Nice to meet you.
Mr. Roy. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
We know people are talented in what they show, but we always know, especially with good artists, it always goes deeper, right? So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sean Graham. I live in Centerline, but I do work a lot in Royal Oak. Actually, my first job that I ever had was in Royal Oak on 4th Street, Phoenix Stained Glass. And I've been coming to Royal Oak since I was basically a teenager, hanging out at Noir, and part of the community here. I feel like I've become a part of the city. And my mural is basically my homage to like Royal Oak's past. I've been coming here since 1987, and then looking forward to the future. And there's sort of just like ideas I had. I wanted to make it futuristic. I also wanted to incorporate the mural that's on 4th Street already with the flames. I mean, you guys probably all know that. And then just sort of my impression of just like people. And, I actually started off with a portrait of someone that I saw walking down the street, and it was sort of, she was like my inspiration for the girl that's on there now. But yeah, it's like a great honor to even be considered for this, and it's just I'm really excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Thank you for sharing your story, and a great piece of art here, and it's going to fit in very beautifully and nicely, especially at that spot.
Oh, thank you.
And a very personal piece of art too, because you've been coming since 1987, and yeah, very nice. Okay. So I think we have these queued up as 2 separate resolutions. Mr. Solomon, how are you? You look great. You sound great. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, Commissioner Colo.
I move number 9.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Colo, second by Commissioner Herzog. Discussion? All right. I got to say, love the colors. I'm a big purple guy. I like how it blends into the pink, very bright and nice. So going to be watching this one. All right, call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. All right.
Sure, you don't want a roll call?
Hmm?
You don't want a roll call on this one?
No, I only call you out if I have to. We have a second one. I don't know, is there much to add? It's the same background as the first. We've heard from Mr. Graham.
One thing I do want to add is the artist, in their application, they were asked to address the current paint chipping that's happening. So they've already addressed in their process as far as stripping away the paint so that there's no chipping on the new mural, and then putting a protective coat over it to prevent it from chipping in the future.
Ah, really good. Commissioner Teasum?
I'd like to move approval of the mural on Noir Letter.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Teasum. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Hunt. All right, discussion. Just going to say I like the purple in it too. It's great. The kids will be happy. All right. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. All right. Well, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So that brings us to item 11, proposed ordinance amendment 2024-09, high school student appointments to boards, commissions, second reading. Mr. Grachowski.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to revise this proposed ordinance between first and second reading. We had a pretty thorough discussion at first reading on that. I took all those discussion points back to the drawing board, and happy to bring this revised revision back between first and second reading that incorporates all the discussion we had at first reading. Gives you a what I believe to be a very flexible ordinance that basically accomplishes the goal of making the student members on advisory boards and commissions full voting members, with some available exceptions that the city commission may at its sole discretion exercise. As a matter of fact, in the original ordinance, there was some discretion as far as the appointments that the commission could use. We expanded that to include student representatives as being non-voting members in the discretion of the commission as well. Otherwise, all student members would be voting members, subject to changing the composition, underlying composition of each board and commission that the commission decided to appoint to any advisory board or commission. And then what's flexible about that is the membership only changes the composition of the board during the term of the student's time on that board. As you know, it coincides with their school year. So basically it flexes. During the school year when the student sits, the composition raises by 1 or 2 depending on how many student members are on that board. And then when they leave for the school year, then that composition changes back to the original composition. As we discussed before, because these are advisory boards and commissions, we didn't see a terrible problem moving forward with even boards at some point in time, given challenges meeting attendance anyways. You're always going to have different times where you have even board members. So very happy with this version as opposed to version 1. I think it accomplishes all the goals, gives the appropriate discretion to the commission and when they deem appropriate, but nonetheless accomplishes everything that the commission wanted to do as far as adding them as voting members. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Grachowski. Commissioner Macy.
Okay, actually, I guess it's not really a question. I was just gonna say thank you for this. Is a very elegantly crafted solution. I love that it is flexible and works for all of these boards at the same time. It really it felt like last time we were all kind of like, wow, this is going to work. It seems hard. And so thank you for this. It's very nicely done. Also, thank you for the incredible speed with which you brought this back, because I felt like we left some people disappointed when we weren't able to move on this before. So I really appreciate the speed and the wonderfully crafted language.
Thank you.
That's coming from a lawyer. Commissioner Herzog.
I also want to thank you for all your hard work on this and how timely it is to come back to us. Just as Rachel Andrews said tonight, I fully agree with her. Students on these boards and being able to voice their opinions on these boards make the boards so much more enriched, so, and the work that comes out of them. So thank you so much for this.
Commissioner Chisholm.
I just would like to commend you because I feel like we had very robust and complex discussion at that meeting, and I would imagine that you spent a lot of time reviewing the YouTube video to really get at all the points that were made, and I think you did a really nice job of condensing it into, I mean, it's really, I feel like lawyers sometimes say the language is elegant sometimes, I don't know, it feels like elegant here because it was just very complex conversation, but it was really implemented very simply and straightforward, so I appreciate that.
Anybody else? I'll just add, I agree. Great job. Very elegant. Very nice. Although, I think my position, I'm still going to be a little bit backwards looking on this one, so I don't know that I'll be supporting all the great language here, but not because I don't believe in it in spirit. I just have some practical concerns that I can't get out of my head, so I'll pull a Commissioner Macy and probably be on my own island on this one, but, you know. She's inspired me to be the lone vote sometimes. You are. All right. Any motions? Commissioner Macy?
Move approval.
Any second? Second by Commissioner Chisholm. Discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No. Okay. Passes 6-1. All right. This gets us to item 12, which is proposed ordinance amendment 2024-12, standards for demolition, first reading. Mr. Grochowski.
Thank you, Your Honor, and good evening again. I'd call this fugitive dust number 2. It was brought to our attention at the last meeting that not necessarily the signage requirements that we require on residential demolition sites applied to commercial industrial demolition sites. So taking that consideration, we have a very simple fix to that basically says all demolition sites shall comply with the standards, and those standards do include those signage requirements as brought to our attention. So again, it just strikes out one little paragraph or one word or a couple of words talking about residential and basically adds the word all for all demolition sites to comply with that signage.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Grochowski? Commissioner Herzog.
It's not a question, but more of a comment. This proposed ordinance amendment addresses the action item of 1.3.1, energy and buildings of the Sustainability and Climate Action Plan. And I think this additional communication step will help protect the health of our residents and visitors. So I support this motion. In addition, I have a proposed motion that ties into this work and the Sustainability and Climate Action Plan that I would like to quickly discuss after we finish this agenda item.
It's germane to the agenda item, so I don't think there's an issue there. All right, so we have the ordinance in front of us, or I'm sorry, we have the proposed amendments in front of us. Commissioner Douglas.
I'll move approval.
A motion by Commissioner Douglas. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Hunt. All right. Oh, discussion? Yes. Commissioner Colo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. While it's not why we opened up this ordinance, I think something to look at in the near future here is how we protect our right-of-ways during a construction project. I look at some construction projects that completely take over the sidewalk for months on end. And I think that we need to be more cognizant of how we are holding the builders accountable to the residents of our locals as they do that. And there are solutions out there. I think they can work around it, but we need to maintain sidewalks and make sure that, I mean, quite frankly, builders are just kind of taking advantage of the fact that we don't have a strict ordinance around that. Where you see dumpsters left on the sidewalk for a long time, construction materials. So I'm not going to ask of this tonight. It's, it's open for this particular purpose of future dust. I think that's something we think about into the future and next year, especially as we're looking at zoning and master plan items, that this is something we consider looking at when we make those larger changes.
Any other discussion? All right, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Commissioner Herzog.
Thank you for this. The Sustainability and Climate Action Plan was adopted in 2022, and since then, there has been action items completed and projects implemented, including our discussion with this fugitive dust one. However, we haven't had an update on the progress of the plan and the metrics used to track the success of the effort. So this plan is an integral part of our city's operations. It is embedded and referenced in plans such as the Parks and Rec 5-year rec plan, the Aging in Place strategic plan, and the draft master plan. So having an update by the end of the year will help us make better evidence-based decisions and strategies as we enter into our budget season in the new year. It will help the new city manager ground themselves in the environmental priorities and progress in the city, and it will give us an opportunity to celebrate our accomplishments. So I move to have an update on the progress of the Sustainability and Climate Action Plan, including metrics to demonstrate progress presented to the Environmental Advisory Board on November 20th and the City Commission on December 16th.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? Second by Commissioner Macy. Discussion. Commissioner Douglas.
It's been our practice in the past to ask staff before we direct them to take action and work on a project like this, which could be fairly substantial. And so I'm going to turn to our interim city manager and ask him if that's a reasonable timetable, what he knows about this that he can, that would make this either be reasonable or might need some more time. And he may want to take, 2 weeks to think about it and research it before coming back with a recommendation. So I'm going to kick it to Mr. Wallenweber.
I think there's sufficient time, but I'll bring it up we'll talk at staff meeting tomorrow and then with our internal staff as well, and we'll get back to you if that is not a reasonable time or if we need additional time. But I don't see why we can't provide an update as well as some of the matrices that have been done and what's yet to be done as well.
So the request was to bring it to the Environmental Advisory Board in November, and then potentially City Commission sometime after that. Okay.
Yes, so the last Environmental Advisory Board meeting and the last City Commission meeting.
Okay.
And the Sustainability Manager, Angela Fox, has been reporting out on some of these things at the Environmental Advisory Board. It's part of her update plans that are on our website. So I felt confident that this work could be done in 60 days.
Okay, good, thanks.
Any other discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. All right. All right, that brings us to the second to last item the last item before adjournment, which is the advice of counsel regarding Oakland County Circuit Court Case 2024-204795-NI. Commissioner Macy.
Move that we instruct council to proceed as advised in closed session in the matter regarding Mitchell DePerno versus City of Royal Oak, Oakland County Circuit Court Case 2024-204795-NI.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Taken by Commissioner Colo. Discussion? All right, with none. Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. All right, that brings us to the last item tonight, which is adjournment. Anyone wish to make this critical and important motion that will affect all of us, at least for the next 2 weeks? Commissioner Herzog. We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Douglas. Discussion? All right, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. We're adjourned.